Okay, I'm going to ask everybody to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Jay Lawrenson, dancer, performer, educator, choreographer.
Hello, I'm Sorani Gutierrez, performer from Colombia, South America.
And I'm Lori.
I'm Abel Flores, performance artist from Grand Prairie.
Hello, I'm Willow DeBose, born and raised Dallas, dance artist, dance maker.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Mavis from Dallas and a dance artist and dance educator.
I would really like to thank all of these amazing people. Just so you know, each of them are creators in their own right, do their own work, and they spent this time with me to create this together. Can we give them another round of applause? We'd like to start it off with just a couple of questions about the show, and then you, of course, you're welcome to ask any question you like. I just would like to see show of hands. How many people in this room lost someone, a family member or a friend during the pandemic? There you see the widespread effect of all of this. And thank you for doing that. We want to acknowledge that. I would like to ask whether there's any particular section of the show that really hit home for you that you could really relate to. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, toilet tissue purchasing.
The toilet paper. Yes. Working from home.
The whole thing.
The whole thing.
News.
The news.
Yeah.
The news.
Yeah.
The Kool-Aid.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
The Kool-Aid?
The Kool-Aid. I was not paying attention.
Really how you presented the theme of people and their own pictures and things that we did for influencers and how that really came about, as well as the pollution in our system, whether or not it got better or worse during the pandemic. It was a really big deal. I really appreciate that segment.
Thank you very much. So the online presence was stronger than ever before, and that, of course, continues. And, of course, the environmental issues continue. Anybody else have some thoughts on what kind of relate what you could relate to most? I was also wanting to ask if there's anything that you might, but if you were the director, what might you add? Is there anything else that you might want to add to the show?
Homeschool. Yes.
Homeschool.
Yes.
That's it. That's my friend, the teachers over there. Yes. Homeschool. Yeah, all those online classes.
From all parents. Yes.
Parents.
For all parents, yeah. Holy.
Bless all the parents. Yes. Yes, of course. A whole generation. Yes.
And the kids who missed out on milestones,
Mm.
graduations, proms,
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
year of college.
True.
Very good point. A lot of milestones. And then we start celebrating them online.
It's not the same.
Yeah, my my nephew's son, actually, in Colorado, had his bar mitzvah, and I watched it online. I thought it was actually very moving, but boy, did I want to be there, to witness it in person. Anything else? Okay, well, sorry?
We kind of hit a beach, which was nice. And in the beginning, we're like, oh yeah, we're going to go somewhere. We're going to go 3 different countries. That was a big deal. That was a big deal.
Travel was very much disrupted, and even now, I'm not the only one with a mask on in the airport. Anybody else doing that? Yeah, I see some nods. Yeah. So, anybody have any feelings about how our view of the world and each other might have changed?
I was ready to see this now. You know, the humor at the beginning and the toilet paper and the, like, I haven't seen much of anything like this. And I thought maybe I wouldn't have been ready for it yet. And it's been such a tragic experience. And that we could laugh at it together in a way, in that nervous kind of laughter. And I also loved that you brought the pollution thing in at the end, because we forgot about that during that. And we forget about it all the time, and it's still happening.
Thank you. That's a very good point. And of course, during the pandemic, it sort of took not only a back seat, but there were a lot of things we threw away, remember? Like, oh, you've used your mask one day, time to throw it away, and things like that. So it's definitely thought-provoking in that way. And I'm encouraged that you all, very encouraged. I wasn't sure if people would laugh. And we felt, as a group, that there are things we could look back on and laugh now that would have been very hard to laugh at before, of course. Yeah. So I'm going to pass the mic because I'm talking too much. Let's see what Abel has to say. Oh, maybe not.
Y'all ready for the truth? All right. No, I think, yeah, just to your point, it was about time to look back and be comfortable, because it really did split a lot of our nation. You know, a lot of people had very passionate beliefs on everything, and it's kind of nice to see that fade away a little bit. And we just look back in retrospective and think, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't have been so mean to that person, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a great point. It was about time to kind of reflect on how we conducted ourselves as a society, including the toilet paper. And it's silly now, and it's like, wow, we really did that. So maybe we can learn from this. You know, it reminded me a little bit, and if you were around for 9/11. Right after 9/11, there was this very strong camaraderie between the nation, and it was very great to feel that. You walked around and people nodded at each other, like we really are in this together. And you know, I think there's a little bit of that here. We could tie that together, and I think shows like this kind of do that.
Well, what he said. And I do think, I remember right after, like, well, right, it's never after, it's not over, but like, as we were emerging, I thought, oh, we're going to see 5 million dances about masks and pandemic, you know, and we didn't really. And, you know, and I think Willow and I were gifted with the ability to talk about kind of our own experience in the pandemic as artists. I'll let you talk about your experience of dancing in the boxes as a student. And, you know, and for me also doing the tango, like as soon as I could get back dancing tango, we were in masks, it was not safe. I was hugging someone in a mask, you know, but like, I was so ready to dance with another person again. And it really was like, we all sort of like felt this like rip apart of that contact that we're used to having. So that was something fun to kind of think about and dig into, and the impact still of that time and how we felt during that time. I'm gonna talk about dancing in the box.
I'll talk now. I think on one note, it's interesting to feel the warp of time from then to now. It kind of feels like a time jump to me. I was in my undergrad program, and we were like one day sitting in the audience doing our dress rehearsal, and the next day we had to pack and leave, and that was it. And we all went home and all of those things, and our only opportunity to get back to where we wanted to be was to dance in taped boxes in really small groups. And so, yeah, I think as artists and as dancers and as humans, it's really hard to feel that disconnect, and then it's like, what do we do with it after the fact, after it does fade away? But yeah, so that's a little glimpse of my moment in the show, and I've been really happy to be able to work with the people who had so many different experiences and see you all here tonight.
So probably about a few months before the pandemic hit. It was my first like full-time teaching job. So that was interesting. So you go from trying to navigate how to be a first year educator, and then not only that, but add the pandemic and everything else on top of that. So now looking back at it, it kind of pulled a lot of creativity out of me that I don't think I would have learned otherwise if that didn't happen. But then on the other side, getting to know the kids and then having to separate from them and then never see them again. Because for the rest of the year, all the way up until the following year, I didn't get to see them. So to have that disconnect from them after already building 6 months of a relationship with them was really weird. To try to figure out, okay, I connected with them for 6 months. How do I keep that connection, but we're on a screen now? It was really weird. And then having kids, monitoring kids online is hard. You got one screen off, you got one child running this way, you got parents in the background with a t-shirt off and everything else, forgetting that the kid is on Zoom. It was an experience. But I think after that it was interesting to see how different ways you can still engage with people as an artist, to still find that connection somehow, and a lot of creativity came out of that. I found myself being extra creative with video and all the other stuff and whatnot. But funny thing with the toilet paper, going back to that, it's funny to see how that happened back then and it wasn't so funny. And then when we have things such as storms, people, it's like you go back in time to when it was a pandemic and everybody running to stores to grab toilet paper, and now I'm like, every time it happens I just laugh because I'm like, nothing is as detrimental and crazy as the pandemic, and it's like as if trauma hit again and it keeps rising up every time something happens and you get flashbacks. So to have that happen is really weird, and that kind of brought me to when we were creating this, I was starting to have flashbacks, and now I could laugh at it. Before I could not, because I was like, where am I going to get toilet paper from? Now it's like it doesn't last as long when we have like storms and stuff like that. So now I can laugh and I'm like, why are people on video grabbing and clearing the shelves and then 2 days later it's fine? But it was this was definitely a reflection going through this whole process of like things that happened in the past. So it was a good experience and I learned a lot. Lori decided she wanted to give me lines. Why? I don't know. I said, I am not an actor, but I would try my best for her. But yeah, I enjoyed this process. It was really nice to add a little bit more theater. I'm used to just dancing. So yeah, it was really nice to work with everyone.
I think this is a good opportunity, a good experience to go back to our past, but also to reflect in what we learned. And yeah, of course, it was a very traumatic experience for humans, but nature has a big break, a happy break. And yes, it's an opportunity to reflect on what we learned and how those lessons are shaping our present and how we are going to keep up with those lessons to shape our future. So that's for me the opportunity of this reminder of what happened in 2020.
Does anybody have any more questions? Anything that came up? Yeah?
Just a little shook. Because, for those of us that had real death happen at the very beginning, while everybody was still shut down, and before all the people went crazy with the toilet paper and whatnot, there was a disconnect between people who didn't believe it was real, and, they're making this stuff up, versus, no, I know somebody very close to me that passed away. And so having that, disconnect of, is this just something we're seeing on TV and they're just telling us it's happening? And are we just kind of getting sick, or are people actually dropping like flies?
Right.
That was just jarring.
So to speak to your point, I know exactly what you're saying. I remember, and this is coming from the death ticker part, CNN had an actual just display of numbers that was just rolling of people dying, and it was kind of like it didn't treat it as a human life. It really didn't treat people as actual humans. It was almost just a number. And I don't know if that was just to scare us or what, but I think it's a very good point.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because It can be triggering, absolutely, for many of us in the room, and I appreciate that. How many people in this room lost a friend or family member during the pandemic? Thank you. It was a very widespread tragedy, and we want to acknowledge that, along with, of course, we view parts of it with a sense of humor now because of all the changes that happened in our behavior. But we don't want to miss honoring those people. My second question is there any part in particular of Next that really hit home for you, that you felt you could really relate to? Anybody?
Social media.
So what about social media?
It like took off. Like you guys said, 400%. It was out there. The influencers came out. People were making money left and right. Just being at home, taking selfies. Y'all did that. Y'all hit the nail on the head perfectly.
Thank you. Yeah, the online, community, I'll call it. I don't know if that's the right word, but the online presence is very strong and getting stronger. So this piece is really about change, not just during the pandemic, but we also talked a lot about how those changes have lasted, some of them, and how they have changed us and what changes continue to happen. Anything else that hit home for anybody? Working from home?
Especially the sales portion. It's like, it's hard to connect because in sales you need a human interaction, so it's very difficult at that time to be in sales.
I can imagine, yeah. Anything else?
Being a parent of a COVID kindergartner.
Wow. You have my sympathies. I happen to know the child turned out very well. Because I know these folks. But man, that must have been very tough to start school and have that be your first experience. Anybody here who was in perhaps higher education at the time? Or, yes.
I was a third grade self-contained teacher, and we have to equip them in 3 days. And we had to log in at 7:45, and we log out at 12 for them to eat, and then again 1, and then all the way to 4 p.m.
Good luck. Good luck with that.
From the sounds of it. A little bit of a big brother feel there. They're watching you, but you're
Oh, we
beautiful.
saw everything that was going on at home,
Yes.
or whatever they logged in.
Oh boy. And maybe even some things that you didn't want them to see. Like
Naked parents, yeah.
People in the background.
In the
Pets.
bathroom, pooping.
Oh, goodness, yes, okay.
I forgot to turn off the camera.
Yeah, there were tricks to Zoom, and there still are. We're still Zooming, so that's a great example. Anything else that seemed familiar?
It's a pleasure now to go to than it was back then. It was just awful when you didn't get what you wanted to go to stand 6 feet away, queue outside. It's just a pleasure now to just walk in and get what you want and not fight over the toilet roll. There's a lot of things you can do without, but toilet roll is not one of them. So I was a hoarder of toilet rolls.
Right. Yeah, grocery shopping is much more enjoyable now. Yeah, good point. Okay. If you were the director of this piece and you had an opportunity to do it again, which I hope happens at some point in the future, is there something you might want to add? Something else that happened or is happening?
I would like to see back to work. I would like to see how people are coming back to work.
Okay. That's an
your
adjustment.
next episode. That's what I'm living right now.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people got used to that. I know I was throwing in my laundry before meetings started, and it was pretty handy. And then suddenly we were required to go back. Yeah, tough. And some other people another night mentioned, well, I guess we already talked about school, but also from the perspective of teaching school. In fact, Jay, would you like to talk about that a little bit, your experience there?
Put me on the spot. Well, I was a first year teacher when the pandemic hit, so that was quite interesting. So as a first year, I was in charge of middle school, but I was co-directing high school. And so the first like 6 months were fine, I was making connections, and then next thing you know, we couldn't return. And so not only trying to navigate how to make connections and learn the ways of becoming a great teacher and figuring out what I need to give my kids and all the other stuff I had to now navigate doing that online. So making it almost 3 times as hard to figure out how to be an educator. I think one of the most interesting, or I guess a positive on that is, as an artist, it helped me create, be a little bit more creative and use my brains in a way that I've never used before. But besides that, it was really hard finding the connection with the kids, especially through screen and seeing parents doing things you don't want to see with your eyes. Or kids running across the screen like siblings, or the kids themselves not being in the screen and being like, I'm here, but I don't want you to see me, and they're probably playing video games or eating food. And so that was interesting. And then having to do graduation online too. I didn't even attend that because I was like, I'm not about to sit here for 2 hours online watching all the kids and stuff like that. And then sometimes my internet would go out, come back in. So it was quite interesting. The following year, we ended up doing, you can do hybrid, so the kids got to choose if they wanted to be in person or not be in person. And so probably took me 2 days to figure out how to make a safe space for the kids that were coming back, and then figuring out how to navigate in person, and then making sure the kids online also got what they needed. So as the year progressed, it was like more and more things added on top of being an educator. So first year, figuring out how to keep the kids safe, figuring out how to make the connections, making sure the kids online were good. And so yeah, that was quite a time. But I can say for myself personally, I did things that I wouldn't have done, like make videos on social media. So that was my first time doing stuff like that, which is funny because we did the fashion show, and literally one of my first videos was me just trying on different clothes and dancing. And so as the song was going on, I was choreographing, my outfits were changing. And so I had to record like 10,000 different videos and slice them and put them together. So that was, don't go watch it, it's horrible. But it was, I would have never thought to do that if I wasn't bored just sitting in my house. So yeah, more cons, but there's pros through those dark times here and there. But yeah, that was my experience in a nutshell.
And I really like what he was saying about right at the end there, the creative artists of all kinds continued creating throughout those years in new ways. For an example that you saw tonight, both of those films were done during the pandemic, one in 21 and one in 23, and I had never done films before. I always wanted to, and it was a way to keep going. And a lot of people did turn to film because fortunately we have those darn phones, so we can make all kinds of short films. I'm going to ask Jennifer to talk about what she created at home and what you got to see tonight.
That was an interesting time, as you know, being a teacher, worrying about my students, all the things, but also strangely creative. And I think the imperative to create, I was able to, perform in New York, and with an international artist, they invited me to add something to a dance for camera, and all from my house. I was doing all these my neighbors probably thought I was crazy because I was flying through around my house, the windows. But the dance that I did tonight was actually created for a benefit in Chicago, and it was with a dining room table. So I was dancing in my dining room, and about kind of the people that weren't there at the table, and dancing on the table, and it was my great-grandmother's table. And then to bring it here, it's a little hard to move a huge dining room table in here, so I just kept one of the chairs. But kind of dealing with the idea of those people that are missing and the longing that I felt so much at that time from looking out of the windows, and then, just thinking on my own sense of loss and the people I've lost, and what people were experiencing at that time. It was kind of drawn from some of the other material added to it. So it was, I think we take the hard things that we're going through and figure out a way to create through them. And that was a very healing process for me, actually.
Great job.
All right, do we have any questions? Anything you'd like to ask about how the heck did we put this together? A box dance. Oh, yeah.
That's me, the box dance. Yes. The title of it is Boundaries. It's all about, there's a literal meaning and kind of a figurative meaning. The literal meaning is that I was in my undergrad program at the time, and kind of our option that we had to come back into school was to dance in taped boxes. And I want to say it was about maybe 5 or 6 or so. And it was like our whole class was divided into these tiny groups, and schedule completely shifted, all of these things. And so speaking on boundaries, I think it's kind of grappling with the idea of the boundaries that we have between people that we had to have for safety, and also for me personally, which this is kind of the first time I'm speaking on it tonight, but for me personally, it's like what I've learned and what I went through, who I am now versus who I was then. And so just breaking out of that and learning how to navigate that as a young artist and all artists and as humans.
Okay, any other thoughts, questions?
There were a lot of, during that time, we were thinking and realizing who was essential. It might be your work, it might be a teacher, it might be healthcare. Everybody looked around and thought, why aren't these people making more money? Because they're essential. We need to do something about that. And the pandemic was over, and it was put into a box, and I don't know where the box is.
Thank you for speaking of all those service workers.
Yes.
Who, I remember going down to our neighborhood restaurant and giving them lots of money for a cheeseburger. They said it's too much. I said, no, keep paying people. I want to come here after the pandemic, and they did make it through the pandemic, fortunately. But a lot of restaurants did not, and other small businesses. And what about the healthcare workers? What a tough time they had, of course, in so many ways. And it affected their family life and just everything. I would also like to speak, I have to say one of my favorite things to develop in this piece was actually with Abel, who's sitting right here next to me, because I think the news anchor really helps to tie it together as we progress in his own very special way. Abel, would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I'm pretty accepted to alternative beliefs, right? And I like hearing people out. So I just thought it was interesting how we all were just succumbing to these media empires that were just attempting to either influence us or install facts inside our ideologies. And I consider it to be two sections of media and then the people, because everyone had different beliefs, and everyone was pretty passionate about it. And we kind of didn't know who to trust at the time. There was all kinds of information. You didn't know what was what. It was too much to take in. And so I thought that was interesting, and I wanted that to manifest as an anchor, as someone who's supposed to tell us the facts, someone who's supposed to tell us the truth. And for that person or a news anchor to transform into someone who's telling us conspiracies as facts was kind of a neat, interesting way to look at it. And that's what I'm into. And so I just thought that was an interesting way to
I
portray
really
that.
appreciated that, because Because we also had a president who was telling us that it was police. So,
Yeah.
so that interpretation was
Yeah.
astounding. You did an amazing job.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's talk about Plastic Woman.
Okay. I think it was that time was tragic for humanity, but somehow it was a good break for nature because we were not there. But on the other side, because we were protecting ourselves too much, we have increased the waste, like masks, water bottles, hand sanitizer, like all of these things. And I think the piece is not much about the past, but also about the present and the future, what is next. So I think that was a piece that was trying to connect with this idea of consumption and what we use to protect ourselves and what is the cost of that.
Very well put, thank you. And we decided as a group, we talk about what's next, and we talked about different possibilities, but we wanted to leave it open for interpretation because there's always something next. And just to share a personal belief, the ending of the film is, of course, that one little plant that's still stretching toward the sky despite all the destruction and the sirens in the background and everything, which could lead you to believe, oh boy, you know, it's over. But no, it's not over, and that's my personal belief. I leave you with that positive thought. But before we finish, any more questions? Have I missed anybody?
Great job on Miss America. That was the creepiest when you were chewing the newspaper. That was creepy.
When Mabel was talking about we didn't know who to trust, I said, trust the woman with the Kool-Aid. Why not? Yes. Thank you. Yeah, I enjoyed doing that very much. It's another side of me, I guess. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for coming. Please come to our shows. We have a whole bunch of them coming up, and follow us on social media. That social media stuff. Okay. Thank you.